Hi, I'm Trisha with Yaya Quilts, and I love to make mosaic style quilts like this one behind me. I usually plan them with my blocks being divisible by 4 because the math works out. They all play nice together. Based on the size of the graphic, I pick which of those sizes will work best with this. We got the 4x4s and the 4x8s and the 12x8s, and they all play nice together. What do you do though when the shirts have already been cut kind of aggressively? A lot of quilters won't even take that project on. But I just can't say to somebody your memories can't be used anymore. So I'm going to talk to you today about some of the ways that we can make repairs to these shirts so that they can be usable in your quilt. I actually plan out all of my quilts in Adobe Illustrator before I start working at all. So I know already where the blocks are going to be and the sizes that each one needs to finish at before I start working on it. This is the pile of t-shirt pieces that I was sent to work with. And they've all been pre-cut in different ways, and some of them are really close to the graphics and some of them left a little bit of a margin. So I've separated them out into the different types of repairs that I'm going to have to make. So let's talk about what we can do with these to make them usable in our quilt. This first stack actually is going to be the easiest one. They were cut and they're in different sizes, and typically for this graphic I would want a 12.5-inch block, 12 by 12 finished. But there's not enough here to do that with. And so when I planned the quilt, I actually planned for it to be an 11-inch block, and that way I can get that out of this without having to make any extra repairs. So this whole pile are going to be things that are just going to be cut down, and I don't have to do any extra surgery. I might have had to play with the sizes of them, but I'm actually going to be able to use what I've got here without extra surgery. This next pile is going to need a little extra work. I have enough fabric with the pieces that I can add from the same shirt onto them to make the block that I need. Here's one I've laid out with the block on top of it. This quilt block is going to be 12 by 10. And so I'm actually going to have to cut it 12.5 by 10.5. And so you can see I don't have enough up here or over here, but I'll have enough extra down here, this little section down here that I can pull off of, that I can actually stitch it here and here and fill in those spaces and then be able to cut the block that I need. Same thing with this one. The block is actually going to need to be 13 by 11 to play nice in the layout that I've designed. And I don't have 13 inches this way, but I've got all this extra fabric down here. So I'm actually going to be able to add a little bit to the sides and just a little bit to the top and be able to center it in a 13 by 11 layout. This one's going to be tight. It's a 14 by 8 in my plan. And 14.5 puts me right there. So I've got this section here to fill and a little bit over here. But I do have some room down here of blank fabric that I can pull from and stitch this up at the top. I think I can make it work. This one I probably could have gotten away with a 12 by 6 block without having to do extra piecing, but the space it needs to fill on the layout that I've designed is actually 12 by 9. And so if I were to put this on here, 12.5 by 9.5, that has a lot of dead space down here, which I just don't really think looks very good. So what I'm going to do is pull in some of this fabric down here up to the top, and then I can center it on that block and have the size that I need. These two need to be bigger, and I just don't have enough fabric to work with on either piece. So I'm going to have to actually pull from just scraps of gray and black shirts that I have left over from other projects to add to these to make them the sizes that they need to be. But that's not too hard. This one will have to be put at an angle because it was cut at an angle here. I can put one long strip down here, add strips to the sides and the top, and cut that one down. This one I'm probably going to have to add to two sides and the bottom. These last two, they just need a lot of love. There's just not enough here to add to them, and look how close this is cut to the graphic. If I try to sew anything to the side there, I'm going to lose half of that K. I'm going to lose part of the S. I'm going to lose a lot of this top up here. So really the best solution for this one is to get another block of blue as close as I can match from another project, zigzag the entire block down on top of that, and then cut it to size. Same thing on this one. I'm probably going to clean up the edges because I don't want these jagged edges all in the zigzag, but I'll clean those up. I'll add to it white from another project and be able to get the size I need. Okay, on this one, actually, I think I can get away with just some straight seams instead of having to zigzag on top of it. So I found the back of another shirt that is white, and it's not an exact match, but it's going to be okay in the quilt. So what I'm going to do is clean up my edges. I'm not even going to measure. I'm just going to clean it up and get a nice straight edge to work with on all 4 sides. Because I'm going to piece this before I cut it to size. So it really doesn't matter. As long as I have enough margin here, it doesn't matter what size I cut this. So I'm just going to get some straight edges. Ah, much better already. Then I'm going to use this blank shirt and just cut some strips that I can use to add to it. Again, I'm not even measuring. I'm just going to cut straight strips. So this one I can add to one side, right sides together. I'll stitch that down, flip it out, and do that on all 4 sides. Okay, now we have all 4 sides sewn on to add to it, and this is why it didn't matter what size strips I cut. I just needed it to be bigger than I needed. So now I'm going to cut it down to the size that I need for the plan that I've already created, which is 11 by 10 for this block. So 11.5 by 10.5. Actually, I didn't need to add to the top. So 10.5 down here, 11.5 is right here. I kind of center that into that section, and I'm going to trim it down. Eleven and a half by 10.5. Measure twice, cut once. Ta-da! Now we have a block we can use. Now I'm just going to repeat that process for all the rest of the blocks. I'll cut a straight edge. I'll cut something to add to it, preferably from the same shirt. If not, in a pinch, I can add from another shirt. I'll stitch it, I'll flip it back, and I will cut them all to size. Okay, now all of my repairs have been made. I've got the zigzagging done, I've got the extra corners added where I needed to, and I've cut them all to size, and now I can treat them just like any other blocks and stitch it together in my quilt. Drum roll, please. Here is the finished quilt. Totally worth the extra effort to get those already cut up blocks into my quilt.